Hello and welcome back to another episode of Farming Simulator 25 with me, Daddy Jokey. And you have caught me here just after it's finished raining. I had to skip a bunch of time. You can see it's September and it is midday because it's been raining all morning. And I mean, technically it doesn't change the game, but you know, some realism. We can do field work when it's raining. We'll ruin the field and get stuck. As you can see, I have limed this field off camera. I actually limed it on camera, but then I didn't really have much else to do in that episode that I recorded, and it turned into a sort of a ranty episode about the state of the game, and I didn't like it. I didn't like all the things that I said. I didn't want to put out a ranty episode, and so I decided not to. So lime that field using our sprayer and liquid lime. No biggie. We've already seen spray work before, so it's not like anybody's missed out on something all that important. In terms of used vehicles, I didn't acquire any. In terms of new fields, I didn't acquire any. The only thing that's different is that my field number 2 has the stubble tillage state on it, which I'm always confused about, but I think that means that it's ready for seeding. So, even though I just said that we can't really work wet fields, we're gonna. It is an abstraction after all this game. We are condensing a month into 3 days, so surely that means, surely that means that we can just imagine that the field dried out in 2 hours. Because it stopped raining at about noon. So we should be good to go now. I thought I was gonna have to cultivate it after I put the lime on, but it turns out you don't have to. The subsoiler actually cultivates it. It is weird, because it does take care of your needs plowing state, but it also cultivates your field. Or, well, causes stubble tillage rather, but in effect that's the same thing. So over here we've got barley already in there, so that's good, because that's what we're gonna plant. I do need to actually check. When do we need to sell our potatoes? Or is it potatoes? No, wood chips. Sorry. January, okay, that's when the maximum amount of money will happen. It is currently September, so if we check our list, the only thing that we need to sell is goat milk in October, which honestly we won't have that much, so that's not really super interesting. I don't think I have enough seed on the farm, because that would have been inside. Let's have a look right here in this shed. This is where I keep all the things. Actually, we do. Seeds and solid fertilizer. That thing's just gonna sit there until one day we find a cheap solid fertilizer machine. And we'll find if it actually is cheaper than using liquid fertilizer. As you may remember from previous episodes, a liquid fertilizer cost about, what was that, 3,200? Okay, let's fill it up. That should be good. 70% full should be more than plenty. And this machine does not take fertilizer, does it? Because that would save us a lot of time. So let me just check in seeders. And it is this one right here that we have. Ah, look at this. It could do fertilizer. We would just have to buy it extra. Honestly, hold the horses right here. I think I could do that right there on the farm. I don't have to go to the shop or anything, because we have the workshop right here by the barrel. So I think I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna spend that 5,000, even though that's a lot of money, because it will take care of the need of applying 2 layers of fertilizer. So we'll go here and we'll buy that unit for 5,000. We can easily make that back by selling all of our produce. right? We have a lot of stuff on the farm that gets sold regularly. So this kind of like fairly smallish purchase is actually easily manageable in terms of recovering it. Okay, refill the seeder with solid fertilizer. I think the problem with this will be that we will have to refill the fertilizer more often than the seed, but that's okay. So now we just pop on over to the field that needs barley. So previously this field had canola on it, and that canola is still being processed. It will probably take 2 more months. I think it'll be ready by December, which is when canola and canola oil is at its highest sell price. But it does take ages. It does take literal forever. I feel it takes a little too long from a realistic standpoint. We still have 6,000 liters. They process about, I want to say they process about 3,000 liters or 4,000 liters of it a day. But I don't remember. Now, ideally, I would want to have this done using the steering assist, but I'm not sure that I will. I find that it's actually a lot more work sometimes than it needs to be. So I think I'm just gonna freehand it like I used to. That way, I do what I want, and nobody can tell me otherwise. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start right over here. Turn on the drill. Right, we have barley. Yep. We have fertilizer. We have everything we need. Let's let it rip. Now let's talk about, while I'm doing this, I will start a time lapse eventually, but at the beginning, let's talk about field states, because there's a lot of different things in this game, and I think a lot of it is kind of confusing. It's still confusing me as well, and I find that the menus in the game, the help menus, are not that helpful, unfortunately. It leaves a lot to be desired in terms of actually telling you what you need to do and why. So for instance, what is the difference between what we have on the field, which is stubble tillage, and seedbed, which is what you get if you cultivate the field using, well, if you don't have stubble on it, right? And so the difference is that it is the same thing in terms of you being able to plant into it. The difference is that this, what we have here, the stubble tillage, as you can see all the stuff on the ground, it will make weeds grow 50% faster, I believe it says somewhere. Which means that inevitably you're gonna have to do some weed work, right? Whoop! I just tipped that over. That was goofy. However, is that what I'm trying to say? I don't know. 50% weed work, or 50. I think what it means is that the weeds start at 50%, right? If I hop on out to here, and we look at this, you can see weeds are growing. And it doesn't say how fast, or like, it doesn't say anything, but from my understanding, this makes weeds grow faster than weeds on seedbed, right? And so if you don't want to deal with weeds, if you're playing with them enabled, or at least if you don't want to deal with them being on the field more or less immediately, then you need to take care of the field differently than just getting stubble tillage. Now, stubble tillage you get when you use a subsoiler or some cultivators. I can't remember if it is the shallow kind. I think it is. If you use the shallow cultivators, you get stubble tillage. So, you know, different machines put on the different field state, and to be honest, it changes very little, right? Like, once you have a sprayer, you're going to have to take care of the weeds anyway, so you might as well just roll with stubble tillage. But if you wanted to get rid of stubble tillage, you'd have to use a moldboard plow, so the deep plow, or you have to use deeper cultivators or machines like it, such as, I think, the harrows, the power harrows, and all of those kinds of things. I might be lying. We can run a test later, but Basically what it means is you have to kind of keep on top of it. Now, there are some states that in my opinion aren't even worth worrying about. For instance, one of those would be your needs rolling. Your needs rolling, it boosts yield by 5% if you do it. So ideally, if you did everything to your field, if you fertilized it twice and you rolled it and you didn't have weeds on it, and there's one more state I'm forgetting, but I think it's like you can get to like 110% of your yield, but you have to consider the amount of money that you're spending and the amount of time you're spending on doing those increases, right? So fertilizer, super important. You drop 2 layers of fertilizer on your field and it's an instant 100% increase to your yield. That means you're doubling the amount of stuff you're getting out of your field, essentially, right? That extra 5% you get from rolling, maybe not worth it, right? Like, what is 105% versus 100% at that point? You would have to have some large tracts of land to make a meaningful difference in that. And again, if you start rolling large tracts of land, could you have been doing something else in that amount of time to make money, right? That's always kind of what it comes down to. Is there something else more productive you could be doing instead of increasing the yield by a meager amount of 5%? And so it's kind of for you to consider, right? What do you want to do? Do you want to buy a $40,000 roller? I did see one between the last episode and this episode, in those days that I skipped for you all. I did see a roller and it was 50% or 49% on sale. So it was a big, 13-meter roller, and instead of paying some 50,000 for it, I could have bought it for like 22. I considered it, or 26 maybe, I don't know. I considered buying it, but then I thought, better not. Better save our money. Better buy more land, because more land is more important than a 5% increase in the yield of my fields, right? And wow, we are using a very little amount of both fertilizer and barley on this field. That is kind of wild. I just noticed. Anyway, so that's the field states. In terms of stones, if anybody wonders what stones do, you can talk to, what is his name? Guy lives over there. Ben. You can talk to Ben and he will tell you exactly what's up with stones. But to save you the time to do that, stones are kind of pointless. Stones, like, they could cost you money, because essentially they can cause more wear and tear to your machines. Now, the game wasn't very specific about it, but if you talk to Ben, he says that your cultivators and plows and seed drills and all of those things, they're fine, they're made for this work, so they don't really care if there is stones in your field. So what I'm currently dragging over shouldn't be taking any extra damage from all of these stones being in the field. Where it does matter is your harvester. Ben says that your harvester, what is it that he says? He says your harvester is meant to harvest crops, not rocks, right? And so I guess that makes some sense. If you pick up a rock into the windmill, you break the blades on the scissors that cut the stalks, and you can break the tines on the wheel that sends it through into the hopper and all of that. And if it gets into the works, then it'll definitely break your combine. But honestly, I don't know. Here's my thought on it. In terms of realism, right? Different crops get cut at different heights, right? So it's not like all the crops that exist in the world you cut by basically dragging the header all along the bottom of the field, picking up rocks, right? And so if you were honestly worried that you have rocks on the field that might damage your combine, you could just raise the thing, right? You could just raise the header by 2-3 inches, I bet, and not worry about it. Wheat's not gonna care. You might get less straw, but whatever. And so I don't know that that's a valid concern. Honestly, I feel like field stones, I might just turn them off, because it is kind of an eyesore and I don't want to do the field stone picking upping because the machine for it is expensive and it is pointless, at least until we get a mod that enables us to pick them up using like a front loader bucket, right? Actually, I don't know if we even need a mod. I might try putting a bucket on a front loader and picking it up in a future episode. I would do it now, but actually, you know what? Let's do it now. I'm gonna go grab my front loader. I don't think I have a bucket though. That's probably the problem. Yeah, I don't have a bucket, right? Let's check. Wrong menu. Again, really not my favorite feature. So we have, yeah, we don't have the bucket. How much is a bucket? And do we need it? Front loader tools, the all but bucket is 1600. Can it pick up stones? It can. This right here is stones. But can it pick the stones up off the field? That's the question. There was a mod in previous Farming Simulator that gave you a bucket that sort of looked like a manure fork without the fork, without the grabber. And it enabled you to, like this, kind of, I guess, the manure fork. And it just enabled you to go to your field and pick it up because it's just rocks, right? You don't need to handle them with care. So, sorry, thinking, should I buy the bucket? And should I take a small break in putting the field together and see if I can pick them up? Yes, I should, and so I will. Buy the bucket. I could have leased it, but honestly, I'm sure we'll find a use for the bucket. Let's turn this off. Unhook. Lift and pop it. Yeah. Here we go. Let's pop on out of here. We have plenty of time. Let's grab the front loader, hook it up to the tractor, and then go swing by the shop to pick up our bucket. If it turns out that it doesn't work, we will still have a bucket. I'm not super bothered by that. Cost us 1600. Again, another small purchase that is easily recouped using all of the stuff that we produce on our farm. I don't know if I can actually put that on with the weight on there though. So, let's see. Can it fit? If I could hit in between the things. Yeah, it really can't, can it? Let's drop the... Oop. Here. Bonk. There we go. I don't think we really needed it for the field work that we were doing anyway. Oh, let's not forget to ditch the pallet handler. Pallet fork. There we go. And yes, it is currently September, so actually it's probably going to get dark pretty soon, so maybe it is entirely possible that this short detour into experimentation may end up with me having to plant the field in the dark. But that's just the price I'm willing to pay to find out what works and what doesn't work. In terms of our carrot field, it still needs another layer of fertilizer. And I don't think I'm going to do that in today's episode, but I do need to check when that field will actually ripen so that I don't miss out on putting on the second layer. That would really just ruin my immersion because I'm counting on a fairly bountiful harvest of carrots and I want to see if we can then turn those carrots into like preserved goods. I was hoping for a soup, but the soup factory is not placed on this map by default and I'm not rich enough to buy a $300,000 factory. So we can't lease it because it's not here. And so we're gonna make cans, I guess. To be honest, I think it's oversimplifying how that type of how that aspect of farming works, right? You don't can premium carrots. They get sorted, they get washed, and then whoops, what just happened? And then the bad carrots, the carrots that are no good, those get canned. Because you're not gonna can premium stuff that you can sell at the supermarket for good money, right? Like, I can't remember what it is. We buy carrots regularly at our household. We use them all the time. Probably go through several, well, easily 100 pounds of carrots a year. And so, you know, just the big clipped up carrots, they're perfect for roasting as like a side to your meat. Smaller carrots, you just chop them up for curry, for, you know, soups, for whatever. And I think they're easily like $2.80 per a pound bag on a good day if you're a member of the store, right? Maybe even more. Like, who knows with inflation? I'll tell you, it's $2.79. 3 days from now, it's gonna be $4.80 because why the hell not, right? That's the world we live in. But that's pretty much what I'm saying. Like, carrots are valuable if they're of higher quality, if they're, you know, big chunky carrots that are nice and sweet still. So I don't know that we would make more money by just canning them, right? Like, that's another process that we would have to spend money on, and I don't know that that's what will work. But here we are, back at the field. We're not gonna do it over here just in case it does work and it puts like a plowed field state or destroyed field state on the field. So there's a pile of stones right here. Going to lower the bucket, point it down to the ground some, and it doesn't work. Let's try that again by attempting to lift it a little bit higher or a little bit lower. Maybe it was the angle. So there, then lower. Yep, so that's not doing anything other than removing value from our new bucket. So yeah, so now we know this bucket does not pick stones off the field, even though this is literally how you would do it if you were a farmer who doesn't have a $50,000 implement for picking stones off the field, right? You would just have a tractor with a bucket, and you and your family would go take a walk on a Sunday over your field and take the stones off your field. That's if you're a small farmer like this farm, right? This is a teeny tiny farm. That's how you would do it. You wouldn't buy a massive implement for your tractor. Like, that's just not how anything works. So, but anyway, we can now continue knowing that this does not work. We'll use the bucket as a weight. It's probably actually very slightly heavier, maybe. I don't know. That the weight that we have is 900 pounds. I bet you this together with the bucket probably isn't 900 pounds, but it should be close enough to keep good enough traction on the field. And we'll just crank on with this. I will put on a little time lapse and I'll see you when it's done. So strap yourselves in for some music and go. And here we are, very nearly done with this field. It's also starting to get a little bit sunsetty on us. It is only 5 o'clock, but it is September, so I guess it should be slightly more evening, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. I don't know. Here we go. Oh no, I ran out of fertilizer. Dukes, when did that happen? Oh, just right here? Oh, that is infuriating. Okay. Well. So there I thought I was done. Instead, my machine turned off because fertilizer ran out. It is what it is. We're gonna have to go and buy another thing of fertilizer. I have actually realized that with this modification to our seed drill, we don't really need to buy a solid fertilizer machine. Because we do have the liquid fertilizer, and we know for sure that applying one coat isn't all that dire, costs wise, and this thing can do the first layer, which means it actually cuts down the amount of driving that we have to do on our field. Unfortunately, I don't have any more fertilizer on the farm, so I'll go and buy a thing. Not here. Oh, this is so unhelpful. I'm gonna go buy a thing and then bring it back to the farm, and then we'll take it from there. Okay, here we are. Cedar is back. I didn't want to fill it all the way. It really doesn't matter because, well, actually, I don't know. It doesn't, because we will be using this later. I just didn't want to have to empty it and then have another one of those brick boxes containing it sitting around. I love how they just like spawn out of thin air. But anyway, where were we? We have learned that we can't use a bucket to... We have learned that we can't use a bucket to pick up stones off the field, which means that if you want to pick stones off your field in the base game, you will need to buy the stone picker device. Hopefully, in the future, a mod will take care of that. Excuse me, sneeze came over me. And that should be that, right? That should be, the whole field has a layer of fertilizer. And okay. Oh, it's because I didn't have the barley turned on. Here we go. And it is growing. Perfect. So the good news is that because we were able to put barley into this field, that means we're going to be able to repeat the carrots situation from this year next year. We will be able to harvest this pretty much first day that it's able to be harvested. Because we put it in on the first day, it will be ready immediately upon hitting its harvestable state. So barley, beginning of June, whoopsie, it'll be available to harvest, and that way we will be able to do our carrot situation again, and we will be able to get more money again, even though it does imply a little bit more work. However, it should also give us enough of a buffer that we have stuff to do for video's sakes, right? Like, even though it's the same thing over and over, like, it is really difficult to diversify the videos when all you really do is kind of the same thing, right? Like, Farming Simulator is a very repetitive game. So yeah. But, oh, it's still turned on. What do you know? I'm confused. What is happening? Anyway, there we go. So that's that for today. Next episode, we need to go and put fertilizer on this field right here. So right now we have layer 1. We will take the sprayer and go hose it down with another layer. It should be, actually, let's see, this looks like the second to last growing stage. So we are 3 stages, or well, 2 stages away from ready to harvest. David's carrots are already ready. So I think it's high time to actually apply the fertilizer. I will do that tomorrow, as in like in-game tomorrow, because I don't want to miss that. I don't want this to miss on the perfect yield, right? Or, well, near perfect. We didn't do any of the rolling and any of the mulching nonsense. I think that's the other one I forgot when I was talking about the field states. Mulching is the other one that adds 5%. So actually, the canola field, because it got harvested and we didn't create any straw, base game doesn't allow you to create straw out of canola. Because of that, that field was actually mulched. And so, it will have 105% yield, or it should, anyway. I guess we will see. This field didn't get mulched. We made straw, and then I fought a million tiny little straw bales into the shed over here. As you can see, the physics worked beautifully, and it all just kind of flopped around. I did such a perfect stacking job, and then it just like floated on top of each other and started shaking and wiggling until it did this. So yeah, so fun stuff. Bales are very stable, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Let's take a quick peek before I sign off. Let's take a quick peek at our goats and see if the baby goats have grown up some, because it has been, I think, 2 months now. So they should be slightly bigger. They should be in their second stage. Look at this. Is that a baby goat, or is that like the slightly bigger baby goat? I can't tell. Either way, they look really adorable. I'm glad that Giants actually added this to the game. For all the trash I was talking in the episode that I decided not to release because of all the trash I was talking, they did a good job putting in the baby animals. It doesn't change anything in game's mechanics, but it adds to the visual fidelity, I guess you could say, like to the realism of the game, that we have babies now. And so I like that. That's good. But anyway, that is it for this episode. I thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. If you were wondering how to pick up stones off the field, or what the hay are you supposed to do with stubble tillage. If you did like this video, leave a comment. Say something interesting. Start a conversation about Farming Simulator or whatever. Drop a like. Tell a friend, what have you, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!